Welcome to Meditation Mount and to this month's View from the Mount broadcast. Today's theme is the call of the soul. I'm really looking forward to exploring this with you, as I believe that all of us are seeking to respond to an inner call that is growing stronger and more urgent with every passing day. So I invite us to begin by creating a field of receptivity, a field of impression, so that new insights and wisdom may enter into our awareness. So we're not just sharing things we know from the past, we're actually creating a field of impression and opening up a portal through which new insights can flow. So let's do that by becoming still, becoming aware of our breath, the gentle rise and fall of the chest as we breathe in and out. And we focus inwards to the heart, the central core of our being, where the fire of love burns. And then we connect heart to heart to heart to heart with all of us gathered here today. And as we connect heart to heart through lines of lighted love, we weave together a matrix, a field of impression that will allow new insights and new wisdom to show up. So let's hold that intent together in the silence for a minute. And then become aware of your breathing again, and let's bring ourselves back into our waking consciousness with this sense of expectancy. So we're told in the Ageless Wisdom teachings that the soul is in constant meditation and it is continuously sounding its note into the ethers. It is always transmitting 24/7, non-stop. It transmits and it waits for us, lifetime after lifetime, for us to create what I would call an integrated circuitry of soul and personality that actually can pick up and respond to the guiding signals of the soul. Sometimes it's difficult to hear and register this inner call because it's being drowned out by the incessant chatter of the monkey mind, and also the distracting din of a materialistically fueled society. So I'd like to begin by illustrating what I've just mentioned and look at what is silence and what are the barriers to silence. So here on the left-hand side of the image, you have the soul singing its song, transmitting its signal. And then you've got ourselves on earth with a lot of noise going on. As I said, it could be the inner chatter of monkey mind. It could be the outer noise of a society that is focused on things external. None of this is bad. It simply means that it's not always easy to hear the song of the soul because there is a sound barrier. So one of the ways of listening is to come into deeper resonance with the soul through silence. It's said that silence is a synthesis of all sound. Silence is that virgin space out of which everything issues forth. So if you look at the right-hand side, once we've perfected to some degree the art of sitting on the mountaintop or sitting in stillness, sitting undisturbed, then in the silence we hear the song of the soul. And the song of the soul carries with it a message for us. It gives us directions, it gives us inspiration. We're musically coded. So I believe the soul sings, and we know how to read music. So I wanted to just start off with an image so that it can register that how difficult it is sometimes to pierce this sound barrier and to find that inner silence where we are in direct communion with our soul. So there are some barriers that I'd like to talk about to accessing the soul. Now, Agni Yoga, which is the yoga of fire or the yoga of synthesis, names a few barriers. These are things that tend to block our access to higher realms. I'll just name 5 of them because there's a whole list of them. The first one is fear. Because fear collapses the field, we buckle under it. We can't stand in the strength of our own sovereignty. When fear comes in, we are disabled. And we're told by the Master DK in the Alice Bailey teachings that fear is the greatest block to the creativity of the human spirit. And basically the fear of death, but it can be different kinds of fears. So fear is something that we need to overcome. And we do that, as we'll find out later, through courage, encouragement, courage, which is the fire of the heart. The second barrier can be doubt. Doubt takes away the connection with the inner power, with the power of the soul. When I doubt something, I no longer believe. And believe is not just a mental activity. Belief is a connection with the reality of something. So when I start to doubt, I let go. It's like flying a balloon, flying a kite. You let go of the string, it's gone. So doubt actually takes away our ability. The third one is called criticism. And this is one that I know I can easily get into. I know we've all been part of this. But criticism, we're told, in the end is poisonous. It's not constructive. When we criticize, we tend to find fault. So we're not looking for the soul qualities in another person. We're sort of picking. And the thing that we're told about criticism, not only does it poison the field, but it poisons the one who criticizes. And if I engage in criticism over a period of time, I cut off access to the qualities that live in the soul because I am not creating a bridge that allows myself to be in connection with the soul qualities because I am putting out something that is less than soul qualities. So once again, this is not a condemnation of anything. It's just saying that these traits that we have that we're seeking to overcome do get in the way of us being in contact with the soul. Number 4, self-pity. I think I know that one fairly well. I think we all do. It's like, oh my gosh, look, oh woe is me, and self-pity. And for me, when I go into self-pity, once again, I take away that connection with my own sovereignty, and also I start to focus on myself. I become self-centered. And the way that I connect with the soul is by opening up my heart and being connected with life. So self-pity tends to bring everything to a point of self-centeredness. And the 5th one that we'll name is called irritation. This is probably the toughest one because there's a lot of things that can irritate us. The trick is to know when something triggers us and then to make note of it and to decide what to do about it. But if I get irritated over time, I know from when I would be running races, if I got a piece of gravel in my running shoe, and I used to sort of just carry on and think, oh, it'll shift, it'll go away. But over time, it would irritate and it would cause a blister. And now, if I do get a small stone in my shoe, I stop immediately and remove it because I know it's not going to go away by itself and it will only cause inflammation. So irritation causes inflammation to those sensitive nervous threads that put us in touch with the soul. And without getting too technical, Agni Yoga says that there is a chemical, there is something that is a precipitate of irritation. They call it imperil, and it's another poison. So all of these things that are so easy to engage in as a human being, fear, doubt, criticism, self-pity, irritation, they tend to poison the well that we're drinking from, and they tend to disconnect us. So, going back to that slide of the noise, how do we break through the sound barrier? How do we create the needed silence? And I was thinking this morning, because I just got back from Europe, when I fly long distance, the international flights, I use these noise cancellation headphones. And it's a wonderful aid to sitting in silence and just being focused. So I was thinking, what's the spiritual equivalent of noise cancellation technology? How do we enter that silent space? And so I sort of thought of a few things, a few practices I'd like to offer, a little lightheartedly, but anyway. So one of the practices of noise cancellation would be mindfulness, being aware of what is happening and being aware without reacting to it. And that leads into the second practice, which is what I call compassionate witnessing, where we listen with the ears of the heart, without judgment to what's happening. We witness what's happening, we hold it, but we're not thrown off center. So we're always connected. So compassion is the ability to bring the love and the blessings of the soul into a situation. And we can only do that if we're connected. So the practice of mindfulness, compassionate witnessing, listening to each other and listening to the world with the ears of the heart are ways in which we can clear away the blockages and create an environment where we can hear more clearly. So let me begin this journey with you. I believe that each lifetime, as the agent of the soul on earth, each of us as the personality vehicle goes through this process of refinement. We go through lessons, we are encouraged to grow our capacity so that eventually we can express the full splendor of the soul. At the moment, the earthly vehicle, the personality that is Michael, is not sufficiently refined to fully express the soul. And so there's work to be done. We are a work in progress, as it said. So I'd like to put this into a larger context, and I'd like to do this by sharing a favorite childhood verse of mine by Ibn al-Arabi. And this will create a context in which to explore the larger story of the soul. So let me read this, and after I've read it, I'd like to go back over it again and explore, like double click on it. What does this mean? And this was one of the first verses that got me to think, oh, wow, yes. God sleeps in the rocks, dreams in the plants, stirs in the animals, and awakens in humans. That was the original verse. And then I got to thinking that I'd like to add another line to this verse, and it would be, and shines in the realm of souls. So first of all, we have to awaken. And once we have awakened, we begin to flower and shine. So what I'd like to do is go back, because I've annotated here first kingdom, second kingdom, third kingdom, etc. Let me go back over this slide. So God sleeps in the rocks. That's the first kingdom, the minerals, the realm. The second realm is the plant life, the vegetation. It also corresponds, if you like, to the emotional or astral plane. The animals represent the third realm, which is the instinctual body, which is being born. And humans, we're known as the fourth kingdom or the fourth realm. We represent the potential for awakening the intuition and beginning to connect with the soul. So the human being the fourth kingdom, and as you know, there are 7 colors in a spectrum. Number 4 is always the fulcrum point. Number 4 is always the bridge between the upper 3, the lower 3, as far as frequency. I'm not talking about judgment, I'm talking about frequency. So as human beings, we actually contain the possibility of experiencing in a microcosm the whole of life. And so where we are at the moment is drawing closer to our next stage of unfoldment, which would be the realm of souls, the fifth kingdom. So let me read this again, finally, and include the final verse. So I've got my cadenza added to Ibn al-Arabi's original verse. God sleeps in the rocks, dreams in the plants, stirs in the animals, awakens in humans, and shines in the realm of souls. So if we think of that, I mentioned the rainbow and the 7 colors, and that we as humans, standing as the fourth kingdom, are able to embrace the whole spectrum, and it's up to us to bring it all into co-resonance. So if you imagine now, there is a magnificent spectrum of creative expression stretching from the dense physical plane, the minerals, all the way to the highest frequency of divine purpose, to which we give the name realms or kingdoms. So each of these kingdoms or realms, whether it's called plant or animal or soul, angelic, they represent different frequency bands. And the colors are the frequency bands, so each realm would have an associated color. So much of this spectrum, though, goes unregistered by our human senses, so it's not surprising that we're unaware of these so-called invisible realms in our everyday activities. I always smile because we talk about the invisible realms. Well, the beings that inhabit those realms don't see themselves as invisible. It just means that we don't have the wherewithal to perceive them. And so we call them the invisible realm. So it's from our perspective. But in their own right, these are beings of substance, lighted substance, no doubt, but still substance. So we were talking about this move from the fourth to the fifth, where we can shine as souls. I'd like to explore our understanding of this fifth realm or this fifth kingdom. It goes by a number of different names. It's the realm of souls, and we've actually been invited to step up and commune and cooperate more closely with it. It's been given different names throughout the ages depending on different traditions. Some of you may know it as the communion of saints. It was given that in the church. Elder brothers and sisters. There are certain spiritual groups that treat the realm of souls as our elder brothers and sisters. They're still family, but they're enlightened family. Some of the spiritual teachings call them the spiritual hierarchy or the masters of wisdom. These are just different descriptions of beings who inhabit this fifth realm, this particular frequency where the light of the soul is radiant. And I want to mention my dear departed friend Donald Keyes. Some of you may know him. He was the founder of a UN-based NGO called Planetary Citizens. And he would refer to this particular sphere of consciousness that we call the fifth kingdom as the land of postgraduate humans. And I really liked his description because it hints at what it takes to inhabit this neighboring upper region. So let's think about it. So a resident of the realm of the soul might be described as someone who has graduated from the human classroom. And we graduate by clearing away all the blockages and distortions from within the fields of expression that are the personality, so that we become fused with the soul. And the light of the inner sun radiates unhindered as a blessing to all life. So members of the fifth kingdom have achieved this. So this fifth realm represents for me the full flowering of the promise held within the heart of our humanity. It's our next destination. It's where we're going. It's our home. It's our next port of call on the evolutionary spiral. And the reason I like to think of it in this way as postgraduate humans or wise elders, elder sisters and brothers, it makes it more familiar. It makes it more intimate. It makes it more reachable, because that's the journey we're on. So meanwhile, back on Earth, we're the inhabitants of the fourth realm of nature, and we're struggling to master those skills that are going to help us establish right human relations with each other, to cultivate non-attachment to form, as the Buddha was encouraging us to do, and to generally clean up our act and clean up the unillumined personal patterns and unhelpful behaviors that constitute the shadow. So we've spoken before on these broadcasts about the shadow. And so you know that when I say the shadow, I'm talking about the unredeemed aspects of the self. But the good news is we are each enrolled in a vast planetary graduate program. And thankfully, we have the guidance of mentors from the realm of souls, the postgraduate humans. Who better to help us than those who have successfully traveled the same challenging paths that we presently find ourselves on. So I find it reassuring to know that there are people who have done it and who can guide us as we make our way upon this path of liberating the light within the dark psyche that we currently inhabit. So the Ageless Wisdom teaching actually indicates a major task for humanity, and that is to build a path of consciousness. They call it the Rainbow Bridge. We're back to the rainbow. The Rainbow Bridge that connects the fourth and the fifth kingdoms, so that through this living link, a flood of much needed light and love can enter our earthly dimension. So just as we talked about setting up a connection with our own soul, removing all the barriers that block the song of the soul from entering into our lives, collectively we're being asked to create this rainbow bridge so that the light and power of the soul of our one humanity will dispel the darkness caused by fear, hatred, ignorance. And these are the things that are gripping much of our life today when we look around. So you could say that collectively we're being called to be sons of God, not S-O-N-S, but S-U-N-S, sons of God. We're being asked to shine our light in the darkness as this one soul of humanity. So building this rainbow bridge, both individually and collectively, is how we get online with the soul and maintain a steady and stable link. Like now, you're watching this on an electronic device, and I'm broadcasting in the studio here at Meditation Mount, and we're using a connection, a Wi-Fi connection. And every now and again, a little notice comes on the screen is your Wi-Fi or your connection is unstable, or your connection is weak. And I find that some days I get this inner notice saying, your connection is weak today, it's unstable. So how do we strengthen and establish a reliable link with the soul? I think it goes back to what we started with, is to clear a space free of the noise where we can listen. What I love about meditation, it is the way that we get online with the soul 24/7. And the beauty is there are no monthly charges, no service fees. And it's up to us to maintain the link. We don't have to call a service company to come and fix anything. It's up to us to maintain this living link with the soul. So what I'd like to do now is just take a deep breath, because I want to expand the sphere of our inquiry now. I want to take a step back and look at it from a more cosmic perspective. And I'm going to start with a biblical phrase that says, our God is an all-consuming fire. So why am I starting with that? Well, because we're told that everything is fire. So my hope and my intent is to share this overview and provide a context for inquiring how we respond to the call of the soul. In the Ageless Wisdom teaching, there are 3 types of fire that are mentioned, the fires of creation. And let me go through them. And once again, I'm not giving you the most technical, I'm giving you my version of what I sense. So please refer to the spiritual teachings, the books, to get, if you like, the technical manual. I'm not giving you the technical manual. I'm giving you my sense of how I interpret the technical manual. So the first fire is called electric fire. This is the fire of spirit. This is the fire that is called the monad. It's the fire of divine purpose and intent, and it calls forth and it impels life forward and ever onward. So electric fire is that essential fire. And then the next fire is called solar fire. This is the fire of the inner sun, the fire of the soul. And then thirdly, we have fire by friction. And this is the fire of the material planes created by rubbing together the elements. So we have electric fire, solar fire, and fire by friction. So let me go back to what I said before about the human being containing all 7 colors and occupying this 4th kingdom. We have the ability for all of these fires to meet in us. And that happens when we graduate and become members of the realm of souls. So the electric fire is so refined that it couldn't just land on earth directly. It needs another fire to hold it and to house it. And that is the solar fire. That is the soul. So the reason the soul was created for our human experience, so that the highest fire could approach the earth, be housed in the hearth of the heart, and then also engage with the fire by friction that we find on the earth. So I apologize if this is getting a little technical, just sense into it. But I'd like to get technical for a few moments, because when we talk about the journey of the soul on earth and what it means to respond to the call of the soul, there are some ancient instructions for those walking the path that are very, eye-opening. There's one in particular I want to explore, and when I read it for the first time, some of you may say, well, that doesn't make sense. What's all that about? So the request for those walking the path is dim the 18 fires and ignite the one fire. It's like a sort of a mysterious hint. So what do you mean by dimming the 18 fires and igniting the one fire? So let me give you my understanding of it. So the 18 fires are the sum total of the 7 subplanes of the physical plane, the 7 subplanes of the emotional or astral plane, and the lower 4 subplanes of the mental plane. So 7 plus 7 plus 4, that's 18. And these 18 subplanes come under the rulership and the gravitational pull of what's called the lunar Petries or lunar lords. And so they have a gravitational pull. They adhere to matter. Now, the soul at the moment is engaged in a process of liberating the light crucified in matter on the earth. That is the journey on earth. And so we are involved in refining and expanding our consciousness. So we are being asked to move away from the gravitational hold of the lunar forces, and we are being asked to enter into that sphere of enlightened and liberated energy, which is the solar force, known as the solar Petries or the solar lords or the solar angel. So if any of you study some of the esoteric teachings and come across this fire, the 18 fires, it simply means getting the lower vehicles under control, making sure that we have a right relationship with the physical plane, so we're not addicted to anything, whether it be food or drugs or anything. Same with the emotional plane. We're not emotionally addicted. It doesn't mean that we don't have feelings. We need to have feelings so that we can be in touch with life and life can touch us. But here we're talking about being caught up in the gravitational pull of these subplanes, of the astral plane and the emotional plane. And then why it's only the 4 lower subplanes of the mental plane is because the upper 3 are more akin to the realm of the soul, more akin to the higher mental, the intuitional, that which brings us into contact with the soul. So if you want to sum this up, you could say the dimming of the 18 fires simply refers to the day-by-day process of bringing about a clearing and cleansing of all the conditioning that constitute the patterns imprinted in the substance of our earthly vehicle. And these imprintings, they actually currently code and control our thinking and behavior. So in the work of redeeming the past and addressing all the karma accumulated through what I would say less than aligned and aware previous actions, we have to free ourselves from the gravitational pull of these lunar Petries, the 18 fires. So this really is the classic meeting with the dweller on the threshold. And the dweller on the threshold is none other than us, the unredeemed aspects of ourselves, our own shadow. So we come face to face with ourselves who said, you can't enter the portal into the realm of souls until you have redeemed the darkness, released the light that lives inside the darkness. Darkness here is not evil. Darkness is hidden light. It's that which is waiting to be born. So we've also addressed this about the dance with the shadow, and as we seek to bring light into our own lives. When I'm talking about the dweller on the threshold and the shadow, these are simply the unredeemed, unloved, and unaccepted parts of ourselves. And what we do when we meet the shadow, we're meeting that inside us which needs love, forgiveness, and healing. And the key is it's by engaging the solar angel, who represents the power of the soul force that helps us bring the needed light and love and power to the dark places of our own psyche. So when it says dim the 18 fires and light the one fire, the one fire that has to be lit is the fire of love inside the heart, the solar fire. So just as we are trying to utilize solar energy and put solar panels up and capture and harness the power of the sun, that's what we're being asked to do in this next stage of moving from the 4th to the 5th. We are now moving away from fossil fuels, moving away from the material elements that fuel our lives, to becoming solar powered. And this solar powered is not S-O-L-A-R. S-O-U-L-A-R is what I'm referring to, solar powered. And we do all of this so that, in the words of the mantra of unification, the soul may control the outer form. So basically, we're in charge. The soul is in charge. It's no longer watching our addictions, our patterns run the show. So that's what I mean by responding to the call of the soul. So I would say the call of the soul is an invitation for a continuous refinement and raising of the frequencies so that our earthly vehicle can fully express the light and power of the soul without distortion or hesitation. It's just a natural thing. We spontaneously light up. So the call of the soul, I believe, is being made at 3 levels. The first is the individual soul that is calling to us as the custodian of the universe of self. So the soul is calling us home. It's calling us to itself. Then there's the call, which is the call of the soul of humanity. This is a call that goes out to all its disparate parts. And it's a call to move from separation to a new level of wholeness. And that's what we can feel and sense inside our human family. This desire to leave hatred and separation and to re-enter the state of wholeness that we know is our true nature. And then the third level of the call of the soul is the soul of the planet itself. So the soul of the planet is calling to all the multidimensional aspects of its being, which includes us humans. So these are all the 7 planes, from the dense physical material right up to the higher frequencies that we are not yet aware of. It's the full spectrum body of our planet. And so the call of the soul of the planet is calling all the aspects of the planet together. And it is being called by a note from the heart of the sun, which is its corresponding soul. So the heart of the sun is inviting Earth to enter into a greater state of alignment and integration. I know this is a lot to digest at once, but what I'm saying is that if you think about us as individual souls clearing a path to come into contact with the true nature of who we are and allowing that power to flood into daily life so that we become the soul in action, if we think of that as the soul of humanity healing itself, remembering its oneness, learning to put together dismembered body, because we have dismembered this oneness, and we have to remember and put together the members of our human family, create this new wholeness. And the soul of the planet, because it's also going through this incredible process of integration and alignment, needs all of itself to come together. And the missing link, as we've said before, seems to be the 4th kingdom, the 4th realm, the humans, because we're not aware that we're part of something greater. So what I'd like to do is to share with you now something that I've been prompted to promote, and it is an invitation from the soul of the planet to become Gaians. And I'd like to explore this with you. Let me read this, and we'll read this slowly and just let it sink in and digest. So we start off with a question. What's the difference between living as a human and living as a Gaian? As humans, we go about our lives looking at the world as an external reality, something existing outside of ourselves. As a Gaian, we think, feel, and act within a deeply sense-knowing that the whole earth lives inside of us and that we live inside the whole earth. A Gaian is a conscious fractal of the multidimensional ecosystem that constitutes the living planet. A Gaian is a microcosm of Gaia, a sacred space of synthesis where life meets life and knows itself to be at one with all. A human being lives on the earth, while a Gaian lives as the earth. So I'd like us just to drink that in and ponder this last line and see how it registers for you and what it evokes in you. A human being lives on the earth, while a Gaian lives as the earth. So imagine, if you like, an emerging global coalition of Gaians. These are individuals and groups whose hearts have been open to the call of the soul to build a new world. And we are willing to be creative partners with the other realms, with the minerals, with the plants, with the animals, with the angels, with the postgraduate humans. We're willing to work with all the lives that call this planet home. So seen in this light, each of our projects, each of our group endeavors really constitute interdependent points of expression and diverse aspects of what I would call a grand strategy to materialize the beauty of the divine dream. So we need this full spectrum body of the planet to come together, and we're part of the coming together. First of all, we have to come together as individuals inside ourselves, come to a state of wholeness, and to realize the soul inside each one of us. Then we need to come together as a human family, as one human soul. And then the planet comes together as one entity. And when it does that, its light will shine. And it is designated, as it's called in the spiritual teachings, as a sacred planet. A sacred planet is a being that emits and doesn't absorb light. At the moment, we absorb light, which is nothing wrong with that. It's just the current stage of development. So back to this divine dream. I believe this divine dream will be achieved through a concerted celebration of this splendid diversity of our many cultural colors and traditions within the fourth realm, but also within all the gifts that are contained within all the realms that constitute the life of our planet. I'd like to give you an analogy from nature just to help anchor this. So just as the carrot seed contains the pattern and promise of a crunchy carrot, so the vision that's alive in the heart of the planetary being, or the planetary logos, contains the promise and pattern of a tangible heaven on earth, a coming together of itself, a revelation of its own soul light. And this inner design of the future is the spiritual architecture that we refer to as the divine plan. So when you read and hear people talk about the divine plan, it's not this sort of fixed line items on a piece of paper that we've got to sort of check off one by one. The divine plan is the dream alive in the heart of the planet. It's the dream alive in the heart of the soul of humanity. And if we are to give birth to this dream and to be partners in the realization of the divine plan, we need to expand and to include more of the planet. That's what it means to be a Gaian. So right now you could say that the divine plan is being live streamed to us from the heart of the realm of souls, because the realm of souls, the fifth kingdom, its job is to transmit the plan, the design. It transmits it into the ethers of the collective consciousness, and it hopefully ignites and mobilizes us to inspired action, because we are the incarnated soul. So go back to the seed. The promise within any seed can only be shown by being sown and grown. And likewise, the dream of the Logos depends on the creative imagination and the daily labor of each one of us, of humanity, to give it shape and substance. It's been said that we are the hands and feet of the realm of souls here on earth. We make it happen. We bring it into action. We are being asked to make the word flesh, to borrow another biblical phrase. So perhaps the joyful inner call of the soul that we're sensing is the registering of an inspiration to create a masterpiece that is not confined to canvas or marble, but encompasses and utilizes the whole world. I'd like to think that the building of a new civilization infused with the qualities of the soul is an artwork of the highest order, created in concert with the full spectrum of lives who live and move and have their being within the field of earth. And when we do this, together we become the artisans of a new era. So the full flowering of this daring vision, which is the divine plan, may take hundreds or thousands of years to accomplish, but the time to diligently sow the seeds and lovingly prepare the soil is now. There is no other time. So through a pragmatic and spiritual approach, and by responding to the call of the soul, we're helping to lay the foundation of this desired new world and to deliver on the divine promise. So I keep referring to the Ageless Wisdom teachings. Well, these are teachings that have been handed down through civilization by civilization. It's like an Olympic torch. It's a flame of truth. And each time it enters a civilization, it gets clothed in whatever religion or philosophy is current at the time. But inside each of these packages is always the flame of truth. So this Ageless Wisdom teaching offers us a valuable roadmap and set of navigational instruments for the collective journey we're on. So I want to just remind us, like each one of us, the sacred ecosystem we call planet Earth, Gaia, is also evolving and seeking deeper dimensions of alignment and integration. So we're talking about evolving lives within evolving lives within evolving lives. So I keep using these gardening analogies. That's because I have a background in gardening, and nature is such a profound teacher. So let me refer back to a gardening analogy. I would say that the awakened soul, when we are able to respond to the soul and awaken in the fifth kingdom and shine, the awakened soul is that luminous and self-realized state of being which expresses the resplendent glory that is the full flowering of the human spirit inside the field of time and space. And the birth of this inner soul light has also been referred to as the awakening of Christ consciousness, a radiant revelation of the promise of the essential divinity hidden inside each human heart. So let's take another deep breath, because I'm putting a lot of things out into the field now just to stimulate us, because I believe we're being called to action. The soul is being called to action. All souls on deck. So one way to assist in the externalization of the presence of a greater love and the revelation of this divine plan is to approach the task of externalization as a daily process of internalization. Let me explain. As we contact and embody the qualities and characteristics of the soul, the essential nature of the realm of souls, the fifth kingdom, becomes alive in us. It becomes internalized. It becomes a reality within the collective consciousness as we live it, as we behave it, as we comport ourselves according to the soul qualities. We build the bridge, we cross the bridge, and we move from the fourth into the fifth. So once again, the soul qualities we're referring to include loving kindness, courage, joyful striving. We also could name patience, focused intent. We have a clear intent, but also non-attachment to outcomes. These are some of the requirements. And I believe that once we've achieved a certain degree of embodiment of these qualities, we achieve a soul personality integration. And that allows this promise of the future to enter the present, because we're no longer held in bondage by the past, by the lunar forces. We stand as the solar angel. We stand as the soul. We stand as the fire of love, which is the solar fire. So a heart that is open and moved by the spirit of caring and sharing is the most sensitive instrument for receiving, registering, and responding to the signals of new possibilities. And these are the signals transmitted 24/7 by the soul to every one of us, because we are the designated agent on earth. So let's begin to wrap this up. I came across some words by Chief Arvol Looking Horse, who's from the Nakota Sioux Nation, and it really spoke to me. And here's what he said. Each of us is put here in this time and this place to personally decide the future of humankind. Did you think the Creator would create unnecessary people in a time of such terrible danger? Know that you yourself are essential to this world. So when I heard those words, when I read those words, it really said, yeah, that's the call of the soul. So the theme that we've begun to explore today, the call of the soul, really is about realizing that we're here to bring the light of the soul to earth. And so as we look around the world at the moment with all that is roiling and rumbling in the ethers, the presence of more heart-lighted souls who can lead the way by example is needed more than ever before. So the call of the soul is a call that is urgent. So the urgency of these times demands that now is the appointed season for us to flower. Quite simply, it's time for all of us to rise and shine as souls. Now I realize there's so much more to explore together on the theme of the call of the soul. This was just a beginning, and hopefully it stimulated something in you, something in the field, and hopefully we created a space where new insights could enter. And what I'd like to do is to close with an affirmation given to Dr. Roberto Assagioli, who's the inspiration behind Meditation Mount. He's also the founder of Psychosynthesis. It was given to him by his teacher, the Master D.K., who worked with Alice Bailey to write all the materials, all the blue books. So let us read together this particular affirmation. I am a messenger of light. I am a pilgrim on the way of love. I do not walk alone, but know myself as one with all great souls and one with them in service. Their strength is mine. This strength I claim. My strength is theirs, and this I freely give. A soul, I walk on earth, I represent the One. For me, that's a good note to finish on. A soul, I walk on earth, I represent the One. So thank you for your presence and for your participation today. And may the light of our soul burn more brightly with every passing day. May the light of the soul illumine and transform our world from the inside out. And may each of us learn to respond to the call of the soul more gracefully, more powerfully with every passing day. Thank you so much. Goodbye and blessings from Meditation Mount.